I want to share some thoughts about happiness. Well, there's two different types of happiness that I've learned about. One type, and I don't even remember what they're called, but I'll put it in the description notes in the video. One type is related to situations and external, that a person's sense of self feels harmonious or happy when they're getting and receiving what they want from the external, meaning maybe there's no friction outside of yourself. People aren't arguing, or you're fed and you're not hungry, things like that. So that sort of happiness is constantly fluctuating because the external is constantly fluctuating. And we're designed to have a desire to want to keep our external as harmonious as we'd like it in order to stay happy. So it's not wrong to want things your way, or it's not wrong to want people to be the way that you want them to be in order for your sense of happiness to be fulfilled. But that is a much older, more reptilian way of achieving happiness that's hardwired in our older brain. The more evolved way and more empowering way of being happy is the second way of happiness, which comes from the sense of being connected, being in awe, and being happy simply because of the natural things going on around you. So this sort of happiness is related to spiritual connection, purpose, your sense of, belonging in the world, and just feeling that you are enough and life is enough just by how it is, just by being who you are and you being in this world. There's a sense of happiness, and that sense of happiness gives you more control, and it gives you more of a long-lasting sense of happiness despite what might be going on around you. Both sorts of happiness are valid and worth developing, but the second sense of happiness that I described, that's related to more of a something that you can't see or define, but it's an internal sense. That sense of happiness is what gives people more fulfillment in life and can, I think, lead to more mental health and emotional health and stability, because it's not reliant on what's going on around you. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about happiness, and yeah, I'll just kind of let it unfold how it unfolds. So one of the books that I've read that's really changed my life is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I opened to this page. It just happened to have an old note that I wrote to myself and as a bookmark. And on that page there was this quote underlined. So I want to read that quote to you. The pessimist resembles a man who observes with fear and sadness that his wall calendar, from which he daily tears a sheet, grows thinner with each passing day. On the other hand, the person who attacks the problem of life actively is like a man who removes each successive leaf from his calendar and files it neatly and carefully away with its predecessors, after first having jotted down a few diary notes on the back. He can reflect with pride and joy on all the richness set down in these notes, on all the life he has already lived to the fullest. What will it matter to him if he notices that he is growing old? Has he any reason to envy the young people whom he sees, or wax nostalgic over his own lost youth? What reasons has he to envy a young person? For the possibilities that a young person has, the future which is in store for him. No thank you, he will think. Instead of possibilities, I have realities in my past, not only the reality of work done and of love loved, but of sufferings bravely suffered. These sufferings are even the things of which I am most proud, though these are things which cannot inspire envy. So Viktor Frankl's theory on logotherapy is basically taught in this book, but he first shares his experience in is it Auschwitz? Is that what it's called? Anyways, he shares his experience in the concentration camps and how he basically maintained his sense of, wouldn't say it was happiness, but his sense of self-empowerment, which I think is ultimately what happiness is. And this is a man who, he was in a concentration camp for I don't remember how many months. It's been a while since I've read this book. I've read it twice, but it was in the past when I really needed the help. And so he has something to say about self-empowerment and happiness. And I do recommend this book. If you haven't read it, you could probably listen to an audio and get as much from it, but I think owning this book is important. I bought it used, and so I like doing that on Amazon. I like to buy used books as long as there's not too many notes in them from other people or too much like underlines. I like to have my own notes in my books. So think about this book. When it comes to happiness, I think this it's a must. And I read that book during a time when I was really struggling with being happy, and I would say depression was a very normal feeling for me. Now it's a very abnormal feeling for me, and I think it's because of how much I've worked on these concepts and ultimately claiming my own self-power back. So happiness is something that I believe everyone can attain for themselves, regardless of what's happening in their life. But it's those challenging times in their life that can really help you shape how you achieve happiness for yourself, and realizing that happiness is something that is a choice every day, and it also is a skill. And so because it's a skill and because it's a choice, it takes practice to make that choice, and it takes practice to develop that skill. So happiness takes practice. It's not something that just comes to people. Some people I think are wired to be a little happier. I don't think I'm one of those people who's wired to be happier. I truly feel like I've worked really hard to look at life in a different way, to look at myself in a different way, and to look at circumstances in a different way. And I do see from my own experience that over time I've gotten better at being a happy person. And why choose happiness? To me, choosing happiness allows me to give more of myself to the world, to be a helpful person instead of a draining person to the world. I didn't want to be someone who was needing or taking away. And I'm not saying that if you have needs or if you're going through a hard time, that's a bad thing. But when it's so consistent, I think then you might be in a rut or a pattern of unhappiness and suffering when you don't need to be. So I don't want this to be taken as your feelings aren't valid and sadness isn't a crucial emotion, because it is. But when it's a habitual pattern that it seems like you are not in control, that to me is a problem for you, because it's not allowing you to live your best life. It's not allowing you to give your best self to the world. It's limiting you on multiple levels, and it's really damaging you and your experience of life. So why would anyone want to repeat that pattern if they don't have to? And my personal belief is that no one has to, that there's always a root cause for habitual patterns, and we need to find the root cause and then work from there. So in my experience, personally, my root cause was a constant feeling of badness, that I'm not good enough. That was underlying a lot of the unhappiness and suffering that I knew so well. It took a lot of continuous emotional work and mental work, and I had to really rewire my beliefs around myself, the world, and who I was, and so many layers went into me finally feeling like I'm a free, happy person most of the time. And I'm not saying I don't get sad, because I do, but I think that brings me to the next point that I wanted to talk about was a lot of times when we're perpetually stuck in feelings of sadness or loneliness or helplessness, ultimately all of that is just suffering, right? So when we're perpetually in these states of suffering, it can often be because you're not allowing the emotions to flow. So if we get stuck in an emotion, or stuck between two emotions, let's say anger and sadness, and repeating anger, sadness, or looping, you're more in sadness, but then you might go in through anger and then you come back to sadness anyways. If you find that you're repeating these heavier, more negative emotions, and I say negative because they, when you're stuck in them, they don't feel good. They're draining to you. They start to impact your quality of life for the worse. It could be because you're not allowing the emotions to actually surface and flow. So I do want to draw attention to how important it is for emotions to be truly felt and allowed and expressed. And that often is going to help you move through an emotion like sadness or anger. So if you find that you are constantly sad, a lot of times it's that you're not really feeling sadness in its entirety. You might surface level be feeling it, but really getting to the root of why you're sad and what's the real deep main message that you have, allowing yourself to go down there, go deep into the sadness, not just sad because of this external or that external, but what does that mean to you on a deep level, and allowing yourself to feel that deeply and really get afraid of it, or really become deeply hurt, whatever's underlying that sadness, whatever the true belief or feeling is underneath, will allow you to process the emotion better. Otherwise, you might just get trapped in the emotion because you're only relating to it at a surface level. So I recently had an experience where I felt very sad, and I had to sit with it for for the first week it was a surface level sadness. For the second week, I realized what's under that is fear. And when I sat with that fear, it made me even more sad. And it felt like a really dark place. But what happened is, because I went so down deep into it, asking myself, what's behind that, and sitting with it each time, and feeling all the emotions of fear, of sadness, of loss, of hopelessness, really feeling them. It wasn't until I felt them that I was able to, move out of it and start to develop this sense of, well, there is hope. I started to see things from a different angle, and it took a couple days, but eventually I was out of that pattern and moved into a really empowered, happy, hopeful, strong place. So I think my point in sharing that is, it's not wrong to have sadness. It's just wrong to not allow emotions to flow. And when you don't go into your hard emotions like anger, sadness, or fear, then you're not allowing them to flow. And that's when you can get stuck, in my opinion. You can get stuck with the surface level of those emotions. It's not the real feeling underneath. And until you can go down to the depths, you're not able to break open and sprout a new reality. I see it kind of like a seed. You have to go down into the earth with the seed for it to break open and sprout a new possibility. That's the cycle of going through an emotion, and that's where you find that you can develop happiness, I think. So another thing I wanted to read is before I did this video, I just meditated and asked for some guidance on, first of all, what topic to even talk about today, and then how to talk about it. And so I got happiness was a topic to sit with today and discuss. And so I also kind of asked for, did some tarot card stuff, channeled some cool ideas, and I picked up a crystal that I think will be useful for anyone who's looking to develop and nurture happiness within themselves. But one of the pages that I was shown in my meditation was the sun, and the card sun in the tarot oracle deck called Voyager Tarot, Way of the Great Oracle by James Wanless. He has a book and then his oracle deck that goes along with it. And I didn't actually draw this card, I just saw it in my mind's eye. So I flipped to the page, and the line that stood out to me was, "Become the sun in your own world, a central figure of power that creates life." I really love that. Become the sun in your own world, a central figure of power that creates life. It's just it's such a good line, because you create life, you're able to create constantly at any moment. And I think one way to get in touch with that reality and really feel that power is to actually be in the sun, to be outside in nature, and to soak up some sun rays, to close your eyes and let the sun hit your forehead and just relax your face muscles. I don't know if you've done this before, but when you sit outside in the sun with your eyes closed and you really just find the hottest point that the sun ray, the hottest sun ray that you can, and you just let it sit in the middle of your forehead, it changes your way of thinking for the better. The sun is so powerful, and it reminds us of the sun that we have within us. So it really speaks to empowerment on a deep level, because you don't have to think about trying to be happy. You just have to be in the sun, close your eyes, and let it sit there at your third eye, and it'll change you, it'll inspire you, and new ideas will come to you that are empowering and helpful to you as a person creating your reality in life. So sit with that. I'm going to read it one more time because I think it's just so significant. Become the sun in your own world, a central figure of power that creates life. It's awesome. So one of the crystals that really does help me with embodying qualities of the sun, it's lifted up heavy feelings for me. Feelings of depression have lifted off when I've sat with this crystal, just opening my energy to it and allowing its energy to infiltrate my body and my energy field, is citrine. So this is a tumbled, polished version of citrine. Citrine can come in a lot of different shades. This is kind of like a champagne color. It can also look nearly clear, and it can also look pretty dark yellow. I used to have an awesome, like unpolished, raw point Congo Citrine. It was so cool, and I don't know what happened to it. I just recently stopped thinking about it because I was obsessing. I'm like, where is it? Why did I lose it? Where did it go? How could it not be here? I was looking for it for months, and then finally someone in my channeling group, when I asked where's my citrine to my channeling group, someone suggested, maybe she channeled on it, I don't remember, but anyways, her answer was, what did you get the citrine for, and is that intention fulfilled, or why would that intention no longer be needed in your life? And I thought, that's interesting. Anyways, something to think about when you lose something. Think about, what purpose did it serve, and is it possible that purpose is fulfilled now and maybe it doesn't need to be in your life anymore? So Congo Citrine is a really powerful stone. I honestly love Congo Citrine more than I use citrine. I don't even know the difference, but when I've looked at it online, when I had my own Congo Citrine, it seemed like it was, what's the word? I guess I just associate it to being more of a raw version of citrine. I don't like, this citrine's fine, but I don't like baked citrine one bit. It's basically, people take amethyst and then they put it in, and they heat it up to a certain degree, and it turns into citrine. Chemically, it is citrine, but it's a man-made process. It turned amethyst into citrine. But the earth does that naturally. And so I feel like when I get Congo Citrine, first of all, I know it's not baked because it's a specific citrine that's natural. And the one that I had was just, it was points. It was like the natural point formation of the citrine. So this is the citrine I use in my layouts for people or for myself when they're doing energy healings. But the citrine that I lost was, I just would use it more for myself and hold it in meditations. So I wanted to just say, you could go to Etsy. The store that I really like that has Congo Citrine is Spirit Brothers. Spirit Brothers on Etsy, they sell Congo Citrine, and that's where I got mine. They have really nice specimens. Another Etsy store I like is Earth Grows and 𝐇𝐞𝐝𝐲𝐬. There's a fourth one too, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, so if you want to get your hands on some Congo Citrine or just citrine by itself, go ahead and find some and ask it to help you bring happiness into your life. It's also good for manifesting and creating abundance. But overall, the energy I get from it is a very uplifting, sort of playful energy. So if you could use that in your life, citrine's a tool to help you bring that in. But going back to happiness, I want to just close with a reminder that happiness is a choice and it's a skill. And so it takes practice to choose happiness, and it takes practice to develop the skill of happiness. And to me, happiness is empowerment. When you're empowered, you choose. When you're empowered, you decide. When you're empowered, you do things and say things and think things that are in your highest and best interest, and that is happiness. It's choosing to be a person that radiates like helpfulness and positivity, confidence. So just remember that there are two types of happiness. One is going to be related to circumstances, and one is related to a sense within. And there's certain things that I think help us remember the sense within, and that's nature. I think nature is huge. Another one is music. Music speaks to your soul. You can choose a song and it can change your mood. It's incredible how music can do that. So if you want to get out of a suffering state, start to think about and observe the choices you make, and are they in line with empowerment, or are they in line with helplessness? And just see what you find. And then you can decide, do I want to keep making these choices? Do I want to keep thinking these thoughts and going with these patterns? Or do I want to choose other ways of thinking, behaving, and feeling? And if you truly want to choose to change a pattern of suffering, just know that you can ask for help from the universe, from God, from spirit, from your angels, whatever you want to say. You ask for help and you set that intention out there and you say, I am open to receiving happiness and higher vibrations, something like that. I am open to receiving guidance on how to be happy. And you'll get a new thought at that moment. Maybe a new idea will come into your mind, or maybe just a sense of relief. But whatever comes after you set that intention, tune into that. Pay attention to it. And if it's a direction or a guidance or an idea, follow it and do something with it. Take action. If what comes to you is related to an action, take the action. Because once you set an intention to be happy or to do something different in your life, once you set the intention for a higher vibration to come, you've already changed your vibrational signature. The energy that you're putting out into the world instantly changes when you set that intention. Okay? So that's empowerment. And that's all I want to say today about happiness. So have a great day, and I'll see you around.